Hey there, Stephanie Joy with all things Social Security and the law practice of Joy Disability. Here's a short little segment from our recent live stream Q&A that we have every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the YouTube channel, All Things Social Security. Enjoy, and if you have any questions, leave them down below in the comments, and I will be sure to get to them. Thanks so much. Bye-bye now.
Tanya's in the house. Hi, Tanya. I don't think we know each other, do we? Tanya says, I have a copy of my hospital records. The discharge summary doesn't make any notation about me being sent home with oxygen supplementation. Isn't that pathetic, Tanya? What do? I don't want to appear that I made that up. Well, you mean did you just apply and you put down that you are on oxygen? There's got to be a prescription out there. You've got a copy of your records and you don't see it. The discharge summary, it's got to be somewhere in there. Look through the whole, you got the whole set. I would also, because there should be some sort of prescription where you're getting it refilled, all that kind of stuff. But you could also write a letter to the doctor who did the discharge and say, I'd like my record corrected. It wasn't just oxycodone he gave me or whatever, or albuterol, because he said oxygen. Thinking you also prescribed me oxygen supplementation, and I have a machine and whatever, and you neglected to put that in the discharge, and I think that's an important fact. So please correct my records. Say it politely. Weird lighting going on in here. Isn't that weird? It's like coming into the windows. That's all that snow we had. Brightening up. Let's see. Range. It wasn't like that, right, guys? Dimple says, just curious about someone with a seizure disorder, which has caused her to miss work to the point of fearing she will be losing her job. She's 44, had seizures for 25 years, and lately meds not helping. Well, it will depend on how frequent they are. If, let's say she's having a seizure every 6 months, can't drive. If she's driving, then she's kind of speaking out of both sides of her mouth. Because if you're really afraid of having more seizures, you're not going to be hopping behind the wheel. Right? I mean, it just is, or else you don't care about other people's lives. Potentially. If she's having them like weekly, she should maybe read the seizure. There's like seizure listings and see if she can meet a listing. If she can't meet a listing because it's not quite that frequent, but it's still evident that she's having them, let's say she's having one a month or whatever the standard, whatever she has, just having it well documented. It's another hard one because a lot of times the seizures are occurring at home. So it can be a little bit of a problem in terms of proving it. But of course, she's been to a neurologist. She should be treating regularly with a neurologist, reporting every seizure. I report every seizure to my doctor. Start building a, almost like a journal of it. I would be keeping a seizure journal while we're speaking of that. So that's something she could do too. And when a seizure journal, it's just like a little tiny Dollar Tree or dollar store calendar with an S, And then she could also do, if she has like symptoms after a seizure, she's got to go lie down and take a nap for 2 hours. I would put like SZ and then like S 2 hours or something, like sleeping or bed or whatever. Andy's in the house. Hi, Andy. Good to see you again. Cannot forget that name, Andy Griffith. Hi, Stephanie. I just wanted to give a shout out to the U.S. men's and women's hockey teams. Congratulations on the gold medals. That was awesome, wasn't it? Oh my God! And the way they celebrated, and they were so pro-America. It was fabulous. And how about last night, Andy? They came to the State of the Union. They were invited, and they all came, and it was adorable. Nice young men. Yay. It's a big difference from some of the other Olympic, well, most of them didn't win, but, their little negativity. So that was awesome. That was really heartwarming. Valerie says, what I mean is that they want to cut down on in-person visits and conduct, they've been doing that for years. So that's not a big deal. That's not a change. That's not a change. So yeah. It's all good. They know they have to have in-persons because there are people that, particularly seniors particularly, who don't have a loved one who does things for them. So the in-persons are always there. This has been going on, I want to say 3 or 4 years, probably since maybe, sorry, COVID is what, 6 years ago now? Yeah, it's something they wanted to do before then, but getting the federal government or any government really to go faster than a slug when it comes to technology. And they'd always have the oldest, most, someone that I'm very close to works for a government agency, not an agency. Well, I guess it's an agency, a department, and talks about how they still see DOS on their computer. DOS. I think I was a kid, and and you guys know how old I am. DOS, really? Too funny. But yeah, and it's been working really well because they've improved the online capacities and things you can get automatically, I guess, by phone too, so much that most people that can prefer it. People that do not want to be driving, spending gas, waiting in line, risking a car accident. all this other stuff to go in person if they have a lot of that stuff now available at their fingertips. And that was the goal. They're never going to get rid of all of it because some people are never going to be able to do that, or they have a phobia about it. And those people need to be accommodated, of course. But yeah, the more that can be done, doesn't have to be done, but can be done online, virtual, at your fingertips, boom, God bless it. That will be awesome. And it really frees up time for the people that can't do it. So when people say, well, I shouldn't have to do that. Well, that's true. But if you're, if you want to be virtuous, someone wants to virtue signal, I'd say, why don't you just do that online since you can, and let the people that can't not have to wait behind your butt in line at the SSA office because you don't feel like it and you rather just feel like getting out for the day. You know what I mean? If they can, more people can stop taking up that time that's needed for like very disabled people, seniors that don't even know how to get online and don't have, say, devoted children or somebody who will help them, then by all means, I mean, I would do it. I would step back. I mean, I do that when I'm in the waiting room. If I'm sitting down and I see someone that I think looks like they need it more than me, my butt's up, doctor's office, wherever. I'm like, please stay. I'm grateful for the fact that I can do that I'm fortunate enough to do that. So I'm certainly not going to insist I keep my seat because I was there first. And I know you didn't suggest all that, Valerie. I'm just kind of expounding on the whole thing. Dimple says I can keep the snow. Don't you have snow too? Oh, maybe because you're west. We only got like 4 inches when we had this big blizzard. I was talking about the blizzard on Sunday. I was like, oh, it started. Nothing. And I think my Jersey peeps got a lot more, maybe even south of me. Yeah, we were nothing. Although my daughter and her significant other got to make a grand or so shoveling for the neighborhood. So I'm like, good. Now put it in your bank and do not spend it because they tend to spend it as soon as they make it ridiculous. Tanya says, this is the first time I catch a video live. Oh, like it? Oh, well, I'm glad you came. Very glad. We are generally every Wednesday at 1 p.m., Tanya. I'm getting some interruptions with hearings that are unfortunately being scheduled on around time. I've had to shift a few things around, but I did start wisening up about now that the advance notice availability that we have to do for the OHO offices for scheduling, it's 5 months out. Now that I'm kind of, that 5 months that I didn't do it before is now ending. I've since changed it. So hopefully that means there'll be no more, at least hearing interruptions. There's other things that I can't necessarily help at times, but Dibble says, I will let her know. I think that's her friend with the seizures. Thank you. I've also referred her to start following your channel too. Oh, great. Yes, the more the merrier for sure. Outdoor Living Channel says, hey, I say hey back. Outdoor says, I have an ALJ hearing in May. Is there any way I can speed that up? Well, you could waive the 75-day notice. You could tell them, hey, I'm willing and able to waive. Of course, if you have an attorney, you better speak to him or her first because that's, he or she can. I would also suggest before you do that, and do this anyway, if you have not been, let's say you're self-representing, if you have not been robustly getting that ALJ every piece of document, you've not been going to get those updated MRIs and getting everything you could for the strongest case before the ALJ, why would you want to speed it up? You know what I mean? Like if you have more work to do that you slacked off on before, not knowing you should do it perhaps, that would be a reason not to speed it up, right? But if you have all that and you're like, no, it's good, then you could contact them and say, can I waive the 70? I know you guys scheduled me. They might say, no, it's already scheduled, but you can give it a shot. You already scheduled me for a hearing in May, but I'm willing to, sometimes they would send these waivers 20. I never do a 20. I never waive the 75 days. That's like a very, very valuable period of time. And if you want a brief, that's when it's going to be finalized. But otherwise, if it was before that, you could have done it. So it might be possible. Give it a shot. I would call their office and say, hey, I'd like to, is it too late for me to try to get an earlier hearing and waive the 75 day, and whenever he can get me in, because then maybe you could even waive 20. I don't know. Give it a shot. But again, if you have a representative, let's not do that. You'll be losing a lot of value there. KU Thunder. Hello, Stephanie. Hello, KU. Christina says, I don't understand why you're shy when you are the best. Oh, you're so sweet. And give us free information every week. Thank you for your loyalty to us. You are very, because I see what some people do out there and it makes me sick. The clickbait and the titles that I see on some of these videos, like trying to scare people, and they put something completely false in a title and they say, they could set the SSA on fire and I'll be gone tomorrow. Even though, and that's what their header says. It's going to be like, I'm exaggerating, but some of them are really bad. And I'm just like, if people want the information, that's all it should be about. And Stephen Thompson, I know a Stephen Thompson. Probably not the same one. I guess it's not the most uncommon name. Thank you. It looks like he just donated to, I don't know what that would be. What is that called, Stephen? It says, another question for you. I was told I need to have a CE. I signed the paperwork, then faxed it. I get another letter saying, are you sure you're going to show up? What's going on? That they always do that. It's always a confirmation that you're still going to show up. I think it's their way of reminding people that they have a CE, because people, I guess, forget. So that's nothing new. That's just been going on for 20 years. So yeah, and if you think about it, it's kind of a waste. I know I always go back to wasting money, guys, but some of the more egregious things are I get duplicates from the DDS in New Jersey. They just love sending two of the exact same letter on the exact same key, all duplicates, everything in big envelopes that must cost $5 to send. You know, that's a glitch. I told them about it 15 years ago. I never got a response. I'm like, well, then that's your problem. But I tried to save New Jersey Disability Center because remember the staff is New Jersey workers, right? So like each DDS is state workers. They're just outsourced to do federal work. Try to save them money, but they don't even seem to care. That's probably why New Jersey's kind of stuck in some other ruts it's stuck in. But the one about the reminders, that is normal. I would kind of wish they would just stop it too, because if someone isn't going to remember their first reminder when it's set up, are they still going to, I mean, what are you going to do? Send them a third, a fourth, and a fifth? I think now with texts, even the old people are using texts, kind of, usually. I'm just not so sure that we should be bending over that much at the cost of the fund. I mean, it's literally that Social Security disability funds that you guys paid in for and I pay in for going to these administrative costs when they want to send out 3 reminders because, well, maybe they're not being inclusive enough if they don't. I don't know what their deal is. I think you send them the letter and now they have the SSA account and now they have the texting and all this other stuff and emails. How many of you have gotten the letter? I haven't seen it universally yet, but from a DDS, I saw my client got it the other day. Do you give us permission to email you or text you? Just reminders. Like, absolutely, you should do that. So I think it's good. That's the technology that's really, really important. And I just feel like the ink, the paper, the stamps, the envelopes, the person that's got to stuff the envelope, everything. The cost is, think about the millions of dollars saved if they just eliminated that one duplicate letter. The second reminder. Just saying. I digress. Thank you, Stephen, for tolerating that. Brian Perez says, October 2025, I filed an appeal and it was sent back to the DDS and they acknowledged they received the appeal on November 12th and nothing has happened and nothing happened. Is that common? So I filed an appeal. So you know that it went to the DDS. You just don't know if there's an adjudicator on your case yet, right? Like you had an adjudicator on initial, Ryan, and whether you have one now assigned is a question. You call SSA, they might know, the field office might be able to tell if you have an adjudicator. I'm not sure if they can. If you got a letter, you said, so you know that it's back of the DDS, you just don't know if you have an adjudicator. Is there a number that you can call at the DDS to find out? Like, how did you know it was at the DDS? So find out if there's a number you can call. If it goes on too long, so you're talking November, December, January, February, you're talking over 3 months. Maybe it's time, if you can't get any headway, I would try the field office first. If you don't have a number for the DDS, consider reaching out to your senator or your House of representative, the federal dudes, not the local. And I would pick the one that might be next up for election because they just might care about you a little bit more right now. Okay. C. Farrat says, I just got out of my hearing today after a federal remand. Oh, wow. And the VE, vocational expert, agreed with my attorney cross-examination that all RFE were poor. I don't know what RFE is and what would be poor. And judge asked if I go to church and I said, no, don't care for it. Now, I'm not sure why you had to add in the don't care for it. He didn't say why. You added a little bit more information than you probably should have. It might not be harmful. It shouldn't be harmful. But I'm just saying, that's a human up there. What if he's like some biased person? You don't know. I don't know. I think sometimes I'll ask a question like that. And this would be anyone, not a biased person. But because some people say I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't go to the store, I can't. But then every Sunday they're able to make it to church versus use the online church or something. So it just goes to show that they maybe can't do it that much, but they can. So it kind of goes from if they said they never do, get out, they can't do this and the other thing, it kind of just shows that they just did. Now you obviously defeated that, but I would just suggest when he asks yes or no to something and it's not, there's no way it can help your case to add your little, I don't care for it, blah, blah. Because now you're almost actually saying, I don't go, not because I can't. sit through it with my bad back, but because I just don't go to church. So you definitely didn't help yourself by adding that. You probably didn't hurt yourself either, but I'm just saying. You understand? VE agreed. I can't do any work. Well, just for the record, the VE doesn't talk about you. The VE talks about the hypotheticals that the judge and your lawyer presented to him. I know it's easy to think that all three, because remember, there's multiple hypotheticals usually. So if there's multiple hypotheticals, which one are you? So they have to eventually assign one to you, right? So it's not like I know what you're meaning. You're meaning that all the jobs that were presented, that you believe you have those symptoms that were limiting that the judge mentioned or your attorney mentioned, they said no jobs. I'm assuming there was no hypothetical presented by the judge where the VE produced jobs. If there was one early on where the VE said, oh yeah, this with that RFC, there would be this, and this, then you don't know what, because the VE wasn't talking about you, he was talking about the hypothetical person. So you do not know which hypothetical the judge is going to pick. But didn't you say you were on remand? I always find those to be usually very, in my experience, very good. I mean, I see judges being very willing to award after a remand. I know that doesn't always happen, and I'm sorry for anybody here who didn't, but in my experience anyway. And it might be because you if you're going back to remand, you use that time period for that new opportunity for a hearing to get more and more evidence. You're really, now you go to town because you know what the judge thought was week before. Now you know, you don't even have to guess. And then you get to go and drill him on those areas while keeping up with all the others. And that's how you can get a case that the judge will be like, huh, yeah, now I've got the goods I need. And you don't really have to, show him up because you're showing him something different. You're not basically, he doesn't have to say he was wrong before and still, he could still award you. Because now he has more evidence. So he can use that as kind of an excuse. And it's not really an excuse. It's true. You gave him more evidence to find you disabled, which is a good thing.